Hi everyone, this is Jen and I'm going to show you all about making tables today. So the first part of this is actually inserting your table. So the first step is always to put your insertion point where you want the table to go. So right now my insertion point is over here and I definitely don't want my table right in the middle here. So I'm going to hold down the control key and press end. So not the letter N, but the word end, which is at the top right of your keyboard, or it might be below your number keys. So I'm going to press Control End, and you'll notice that my insertion point went to the furthest place down here. So it went from up here. I'll do it again. I'm here, I do Control End, and now I'm down at the bottom. Now, my next step is to press Control Enter to insert a page break. So I'm going to press Control Enter, and because I have my non-printing characters on, I can see that my page break was inserted. If I shut it off, I don't see anything. It's hidden, but it's there, and that way I can tell that I'm on the next page. It forces it to be on the next page. Now I'd like to insert my table right here. So I'm going to head to the Insert tab, and right here is the table menu on the left. I'm going to click on the table menu, and you'll notice that if I hover over the little squares, they turn orange and I get a table in there. You'll also notice at the top here that it tells me the dimensions of my table, 4 by 2, 7 by 4. This way I don't have to sit there and count those tiny little squares. Oh, 1, 2, 3, that's kind of tedious, right? So it tells me right away. So what I need to do is I need to insert a table that is 5 by 3. 5, that's too many, by 3. Done. All right. Now I have a bit of an issue here. I inserted the table, but it wasn't exactly where I wanted it. I was supposed to press enter 5 times so that the table could be a little further down and so that I could put the text that says book prices right there. So I messed up. So how do I fix it? I want to move my table. So if I try to get inside here and press enter, I'm inside the table. So what I actually need to do is get my table into the right place. So I'm going to go down here and press enter my correct amount of times, and I can select my whole table and drag it down. And now it's in the right place. So you can always go ahead and drag your table or move your table around or select it by getting it right there on the corner. I was also supposed to type right here book prices and a colon, 2 dots. All right, I'm going to zoom in a bit so we can see this table a bit better. So you're probably also looking at these weird little, I don't know, what are they, turtles? They are, oops, I made a mistake. I don't want rices in there, I want prices. Easy to correct. So I have these little turtle-looking or creatures in there. Those are actually non-printing characters. These are row markers that show where your text ends or your content ends inside the cell of the table. So if I shut off the non-printing characters, they won't be there. Um, you're also going to see that I have several columns and several rows. You want to make sure that you're using the correct terminology when you refer to parts of the table. So, for example, a row goes across here, and I can go ahead and uh, select a whole row like that. A column goes down. So if I want to select a column, I can go ahead and click above it. I get this cute little tiny black arrow, and I can select a column. So there I can select a row and I can select a column. So columns go up and down like Roman columns, and row your boat, you row all the way across the stream, and it goes across. The intersection between a column and a row is called a cell. So these little boxes are called cells, and you're going to hear that a lot when you work with tables, when you work with spreadsheets. A cell is those little boxes. So to move around my table here, I'm going to go ahead and I can press Tab, and that will always move me to the right. If I get all the way to the right and I press Tab again, it will take me down to the next row, which is convenient if you're just typing along. That way you don't have to take your hands off of the keyboard. You can just keep typing and pressing Tab to go to the next cell. You may think that you could press Enter to go down to the next cell. You can do that in spreadsheets, so but not in tables. That will actually just create more space inside your cell. So you can use your arrow keys to move around inside there. And here's another trick that you may not have known. While you can use Tab, you can use Shift Tab to go backwards. So Tab moves you to the right, Shift Tab moves you to the left. All right, so now I need to enter some data, some information inside my table. So go ahead and take the time to practice entering that data. Use the tab, use the arrow keys, and you can also use copy and paste if you don't want to do lots of repetitive typing, and go ahead and enter this information. Now that I have my information input inside the cells, I'm ready to format my table. Now, you can see that Advanced Spanish was too long, so it did not fit inside the cell. It smushed down to the next line here. And you can also see that the cells aren't really even. It just doesn't look very clean here. So there are a few things that I'd like to do. I want to select the table here. If you are not inside the table, you will not have access to the table tools. So you may have noticed that when you inserted your table, you got two contextual tabs. One for design, so making things pretty, colors, borders, shading, all sorts of stuff. And one for layout, a little bit more technical stuff, where the text aligns, distributing rows, inserting, and later learning how to sort and filter those items. So right now, what I'd like to do is I'd like to adjust the layout a bit here. So you can do these things manually. So you can click and drag the grid lines in your table. You see, you can do that. You can also do this with the row. So you can do this manually. I'm going to undo what I just did. And you can also, for example, double click to widen the cells or shorten the cells to match the size of the contents of the cells. But of course, as you know, I like to do the fastest and most efficient way. So I'm going to go ahead and select my whole table here. And I'm going up here into my layout tab of my table tools. Now notice this isn't the layout tab over here. This is the layout tab of the table tools. And I'm going to go into this menu that says auto fit. And anytime anything says auto, it's a good thing. It means that it's going to do stuff for you. So the first thing I'm going to try out is auto fit to content. So I go ahead and click on that and see how it nice and tightly made my cells close and my grid lines fit right around my content of my table, which is fabulous. However, I'd like the table to stretch out all the way to the edge here. So I'm going to go back and try the next one, which says auto fit to window. Da-na-na, to the window, to the wall. So I went and it's all stretched out now, and all of my contents fit in there. The next step is to make this look a little bit fancier. So as I mentioned, I've been working in the Layout tab. Now I'm going to head over to the Design tab. Now you can see that you can get really fancy here by applying different shading colors to different cells or rows or columns. You can apply different colors and border styles. Um, but oftentimes we're looking for a really fast and efficient way to do things. And you'll notice that here in the Design tab in the Design ribbon, I have Table Styles. Now, if you click here to open this up, you'll see that you have dozens upon dozens of different styles and different colors, and you'll want to pay attention to the different ones that are available. You'll see that some of them have a header row that is darker than the rest of the table to highlight it and its importance. So that gives it some quick formatting. You can see that some of them have a header row and header column because they have titles upon the row and upon the column. So you'd want to pick one that is appropriate for you. You'll also notice that if I hover over these, I can see a screen tip that tells me what the style is called. So it's here it says Grid Table 5 Dark Accent 1 or Grid Table 4 Accent 1. So if I go ahead and click on that, it applies this formatting. And you'll see all at once it applied dark blue shading and light blue and white shading. It bolded my text here. It made this text white. So if I go back to the Home tab and shut off my non-printing characters, I can see how clean and quickly it formatted it, and I didn't have to do all that. All right, make sure that you save, and I'll see you in the next video.